Seeker. This is Counting the Cost on Al Jazeera, your weekly look at the world of business and economics. This week, there's a new way to trade oil. A crude futures contract was launched in China. Find out what it all means for the dollar and oil exporting countries. The Africa CEO Forum 2018, why inter-Africa trade was a hot topic at the world's largest gathering of the continent's private sector. Plus, a push for better regulation of the digital economy has led to a rocky end of quarter for big tech. Well, this week, history was made when the Shanghai International Energy Exchange launched the first crude futures contracts priced in Chinese renminbi or yuan. It is an attempt to turn the global oil market on its head. China, the world's biggest oil importer, buys around 9 million barrels of oil every day. And it wants to use its own currency to price the world's most traded commodity. You've heard of petrodollars, but what about petro-yuan? The US dollar has been the main currency for oil futures contracts, so launching a contract in its domestic currency is a sign that China wants the yuan to play a bigger role in global oil trading. China is also taking on the world's most used oil benchmarks, Brent and WTI crude, which are both priced in dollars. But Shanghai traded oil is still far away from earning benchmark status, and taking on the petrodollar won't be easy. Well, joining us now from London is Michal Meidan, Asia analyst and vice president of research at Energy Aspects. Thanks very much for being with us. So, first off, what does this mean then for the major oil producers, particularly here in the Gulf region, who have always traded on the US dollar?
For now, it doesn't mean many changes. Oil is still going to trade in the US dollar, but increasingly over time there will be more transactions in RMB. This is not a game changer yet. This is not at all the RMB, the Chinese currency, upseating the US dollar, but it does mean that increasingly some of the flows will go in RMB. This gives Chinese refiners and domestic traders the ability to buy crude using their own currency, but again, the transition to the dollar will still have to happen.
So just picking up on that then, what does this mean for the oil consumers like China, that they are going to be trading on their own currency? What implications does that have going forward?
I mean, the goal is for China to establish an Asian benchmark that will reflect Chinese consumption and sort of Chinese and more broadly Asian demand patterns. But in the near term, we have to bear in mind that roughly 70 or even more than that of the people registered on the INE are retail investors. So there is a huge risk of speculation being pretty rampant on the INE. And to begin with, we are seeing quite a lot of movement that is fueled just by the need of Chinese mom and pop investors to find a place to put their money. So we shouldn't place too much emphasis for now on this as a reflection of Chinese consumption needs. But again, as the INE evolves and as the contract specifics are ironed out, it will become a better reflection of how China is consuming oil and how much it needs on a forward basis.
Does this have the potential, though, in the future to challenge the US dollar dominance in oil trading?
I mean, I think that's still highly unlikely. I mean, if we're looking at a 10-15 outlook, perhaps. But for that to happen, we would need the Chinese currency to become freely convertible. We would need other countries to open up to settlement in the RMB. But again, the first and the primary issue will be currency convertibility. And for now, the Chinese government is very reluctant to loosen currency controls and to give it up to free trade.
And how much of a challenge is that going to be then for foreign investors? Because the goal here is to get more foreign investors to buy into Chinese oil futures.
And foreign investors are very cautiously starting to trade on the INE. They can hedge their RMB exposure, but again, it will be more of limited transactions on the INE to try and get a sense of how these are happening. What the INE could become is a storage play in Asia. So because there are storage tanks associated with the INE, it could be a venue for foreign traders or foreign investors, will be mostly traders and people with physical exposure, to bring crude to China, store it offshore, and then deliver it elsewhere into Asia. So there's the element of hedging a currency risk, which I think a lot of foreign investors are used to. But before this becomes becomes a more widely used tool, again, we would need the Chinese oil market to open up much further and the Chinese currency to liberalize in a much deeper way than it is currently.
And we've heard a lot of talk over the last year about the Chinese President Xi Jinping's One Belt, One Road initiative. This initiative to develop ties across Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. Could paying in yuan for oil, how is that tied into that?
I mean, it's all part of, again, China's, you could call it empire building. It's laying the infrastructure and then laying the physical infrastructure and then the financial, technical foundations for China to become the hub or the center of a broader trading universe, if you will, that it revolves around the Silk Road. There are actors that do pay in RMB and that are willing to accept those trade-offs. More often than not, the producers that are willing to buy in RMB are the ones that are under sanctions or that have limited access to global financial markets, and therefore it is a double-edged sword for them right now. So again, the currency, the RMB, will increase, and we're already seeing it increase in global transactions. That is part of the Belt and Road. But for China to become a truly global player, it will also have to relinquish some of the controls that it likes to hold on in the domestic market. And again, that will take time.
And what's the likelihood of that happening, of China's government loosening the reins, so to speak?
It's very hard to see that happen in the coming 5 years. They still have a lot of domestic challenges that they need to meet, and I think the government sent increasingly under Xi Jinping is that the state and the party needs a very firm control over that. If liberalization was the trend in the 90s, I think we're very much seeing a reversal of that. So China is very much willing to become a global player, but under its own terms. And whether the global market and global investors are happy to take that on, I think we're not seeing a huge amount of appetite for that yet.
Michal Meydan, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Now, technology stocks.
All right, shalom. First, I'd like to start by saying all praise to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem HaKadosh. Double honors to the elders and apostles that rule well, and salutations to the brothers that's doing the truth and sincerity. Now, this lesson, as you can see, is basically, to sum it up, based on how China is trying to become the world's next superpower, it's coming up with the the petro yuan. It's getting more nations to deal with it, deal with this currency, and help it become the number one and stuff, man. They have their deals. China has its deals with these other nations, BRICS, and other nations. They ultimately are getting rid of America as a whole, because America is coming down. So all you see up in this video is them showing the steps that China is taking, to becoming the world's next superpower. But Yahweh Shema Shai isn't going to let that happen. So I'm going to just bring out a couple scriptures on it. This is Psalms chapter 2, verse 1. Why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? Right, the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing is, actually China thinking it's going to become the next superpower, man. But the Lord not having that. The Lord is simultaneously bringing up Israel, to take over the world, through prophecy. So, let me see. All right, this is Joel chapter 3 verse 1. It says, "Behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem." And you see that happening. You see that happening by the Lord raising us up. Starting with the apostles, and their elders above them on down. See the Lord raising us up to bring out this truth, man, and gather the Lord's elect. That's why we out there on the highways and byways, because the Lord ultimately is bringing us back unto Him. It says, "I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat." So simultaneously, right, China is trying to become the next world superpower. The Lord was raising up His men all across the world, bringing them back unto Him. And also, while that was going on, He was gathering all nations to the battle of Jehoshaphat. It says, "And will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land." Right, so the Lord getting them ready for this battle of World War III, because of what they did to us. It says, "And they have cast lots for my people and gave a boy for an harlot," right? So they were these Edomites was having sex with the young Judite boys, and so they girl for wine that they may drink, right? And they were selling our women. "Yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coast of Palestine?" Right? Africans is Tyre and Zidon, and Palestine is Ishmaelites. "Will ye render me a recompense? And if ye recompense me, swiftly and speedily will I return your recompense upon your own head." Right? Because they had, the book is called Slavery in the Arab World. It actually tells you how, the Arabs were selling us into slavery to these Africans, man. And it goes in detail on what they were selling us for, so on and so forth. It says, "Because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things." Right, and that's when they took us down and took our riches. "The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians," which the Grecians are these Edomites, "that ye might remove them far from their border," right? Because our border was the land of Israel. It says, "Behold, I will raise them out of the place whither ye have sold them, and will return your recompense upon your head." Right. So the Lord is raising us up out of the places that we were sold, which was all over the world, because we sinned against Yahweh Shema Shai. And what they did to us, we're gonna get to do to them, which is put them in slavery, man. It says, "And I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of the children of Judah, and they shall sell them to the Sabians, to a people far off, for the Lord hath spoken it." Right. So since they put us into slavery, they're going to be going into slavery, man. So, these Chinese got it all, twisted up, man, thinking that they're going to become the next rulers, man. They ultimately, the elites know that the Lord is on His way back. They see these prophecies coming past. The regular peon people don't know what's going on, but still, their pride is still, basically having it to where they build themselves up, man. Because it's ultimately biblical prophecy. Let me see. This is Revelation chapter 13, verse 9. "If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here's the patience and the faith of the saints." Right, so that's what Yahweh of the elect, that's what we're waiting on, man. For to get our revenge, man. That's why the scriptures say they imagine a vain thing, because they think they're gonna be the next rulers, when ultimately we gonna be the next rulers, man. This second Ezra chapter 6, verse 8, it says, "And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac." I'm gonna start at verse verse 6. It says, "Then did I consider these things, and they all were made through me alone, and through none other. By me also shall they be ended, and by none other. Then answered I and said, What shall be the parting asunder of the times? And when shall be the end of the first, and the beginning of it that follows? Right, the end of the first world, and the beginning of this next world, so to speak. It says, and he said unto me, From Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born, right, Jacob represents the 12 tribes of Israel. Esau represents the so-called Caucasian race. It says, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. And that's what that stands for, is us bringing down Esau Foundation, which is bringing down his lies, man. You know, we bringing out this information, letting people know that, no, China not going to be the next rulers, man. We represent the 12 tribes of Israel. You know, the true biblical Jews and the rest of the tribes, man. You know, and the Lord, Yahweh Shema Shai, and the angels are black men, and they coming back for us. It says, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. Right, so Esau's world is ending. And his world is basically his kingdom. And these nations know it. So China trying to prop themselves up, you know, to become the next rulers. But like I said, the Lord ain't having that, man. And, you know, just another statement. These nations know that America is coming down. That's another reason why all of this thing with China bringing out the petro yuan, and you know, all the nations, you know, starting to, you know, purchase, you know, use the yuan a little more as far as dealing with dealing with their currency more, so to speak. This is Jeremiah chapter 51, verse 7. It says, Babylon has been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. Right, a golden cup, meaning when we came over here in slavery up under these Edomites, the Lord used us to build this place up, man. You know, these Edomite devils didn't just build this place up on their own and, you know, have the mind frame and, you know, all that extra shit. The Lord had it to where we built this place up. We were the inventors, you know. We keep this place going through the factory work and all of that shit, man. It says, Babylon had been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, which is her philosophies, in particular, the monetary system. Therefore, the nations are mad, right? Because the American currency, as it's coming down, you know, these other nations are coming down with it. So they trying to get rid of it so their societies won't come down. That's why they invented or came up with the petro yuan. They need a stronger currency to keep everything, you know, keep everything up, you know. It says, it says, Babylon had been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her, take balm for her pain, if so be she may be healed. Right. And they tried to heal Babylon, which is America, by putting putting more money into the system, which actually just devalued the currency. That's why these nations are, turning to each other and, you know, leaving America out of everything. It says, take balm for her pain, if so be she may be healed. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her and let us go everyone into his own country. Right, so, you know, since America couldn't be healed, these nations are leaving this place, man. They're going back to their own countries, you know, taking their businesses with them, or just taking themselves if they don't have any businesses. You know, they not investing in the businesses in America, which is also helping America crash faster. It says, for judgment reacheth unto heaven and is lifted up even to the sky. So America judgment is reached up into heaven, man. You know, that's why this place is going to be destroyed, man. For what? The rape, robbery, and murder of the blacks, Latins, and Native American Indians, man. Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, that's it for the lesson though. All praise to Yahweh by Shemel Shai. Double honors to the elders and apostles that rule well. And salutations to the brothers that's doing this truth and sincerity. Shalom. Salakia.